Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Morning Mindset. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're ready to get your mind aligned with the truth of God. Hey, I want to say a quick thank you and hello to Elizabeth, who is our newest partner, who's come alongside us financially to help with the Morning Mindset and our extended ministries. You can find out how to become a partner by going to careygreen.com/partner. And by the way, we have had some technical issues with our website recently. That includes Not a Needy Person, and the websites have been down, but we are working to get those back up. Hopefully by the time you hear this, they will be back online. So thank you so much for your patience. All right, we are diving into Acts chapter 9 today. I just love the stories, the accounts that we're learning from the book of Acts about what happened in the early days of this thing we call the church. Now, in chapter 9, we're going back to the story of a man named Saul. Now, if you remember, Saul was introduced to us just a little while ago as a man who was opposing the church, and he was part of a crowd that actually stoned a man named Stephen. That means killed him by throwing rocks at him until he was dead. And Saul took it upon himself to be an avenger, so to speak, of the Jewish faith. He was going after people who he believed were opposing the Jewish faith. And at this time in history, that was Christians. All right, so in chapter 9, we begin in verse 1. It says, "But Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem." Now let's stop and analyze this for a moment. Saul is getting pretty aggressive. He went to the religious authorities asking them for permission and authority to go to this place called Damascus, to go through the synagogues, which are like their gathering places for religious activities in the community. And he wants to find anyone belonging to what Luke describes here as the way, which might be a way that they referred to themselves as they followed Jesus back in that day. He wants to find those people who are in the synagogues and bring them bound to Jerusalem. So he wants to arrest them and bring them for questioning, it sounds like. Continuing in verse 3. "Now, as he went on his way, he approached Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him. And falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?' And he said, 'Who are you, Lord?' And he said, 'I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But rise and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do.' The men who were traveling with him stood speechless, hearing the voice, but seeing no one. Saul rose from the ground, and although his eyes were opened, he saw nothing. So they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And for 3 days he was without sight, and neither ate nor drank." Now, friends, there are some amazing things that happen here, not to mention, a blinding light and a voice from heaven that knocks you off your donkey. I mean, there is some incredible stuff going on here. But what I find even more incredible is that this guy who was opposed to the Christian way and was actively going about seeking to destroy people through arresting them responds in such a humble way. I mean, look at this. When this voice speaks to him, he asks, "Who are you, Lord?" And that may have just been a title of respect because he realized this was a greater power than him. But then Jesus, when he reveals himself and gives him instruction, seems to have an impact on Saul. Because when Saul goes into the city, he sits for 3 days and nights without sight, not eating, not drinking. This guy is fasting. This guy is in a state of contemplation and meditation, seeking God's will for his life. And I want to ask you, what is your response when Jesus speaks to you? Now, you may say, well, I've never heard an audible voice like this, and I've never had a light that blinded me. But friends, let's stop for a moment and be honest with ourselves. In our conscience, in our heart of hearts, we often feel Jesus pointing us in a certain direction or convicting us about a pattern of sin in our lives. And we, I believe, most of the time don't respond like Saul did. We don't stop. We don't listen. and focus ourselves on listening through a practice like fasting. We just push ahead, kind of convincing ourselves that we know best, or that we'll get around to listening when we have time. My friends, I think we're missing out, just like Saul was. Jesus, help us to hear your voice and to stop, to take it seriously, and to listen when you speak to us. Guide us and give us the grace to follow you and to ponder your words so that we can be careful to do all you command us. In Jesus' name.